So I just got back from watching the new Superman movie, and it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It was actually really, really good. It definitely is a feel-good movie. There were people clapping at the end of it. There were a lot of positive reactions. It was pretty amazing to see, no matter how difficult things got, not just physically or mentally, but also emotionally and psychologically, he kept being the person that he's supposed to be. That resilience was just phenomenal and inspirational. Well, let's talk about Lois Lane. We know that she's going to be in there, right? I thought she was absolutely phenomenal. I really thought that they basically picked a near perfect Lois Lane. I really, really liked her a lot in every way possible. She was like a strong female character that really leaned into her feminine a lot, showing that you could have a strong and feminine character at the same time. Imagine that. We haven't seen that or a lot of that in the last, I don't know, 10 years or something like that. There are maybe some examples you could pick, right? But like maybe the first Woman movie. It's been a very long time since I've really seen a good example of that, because people are trying to push agenda-driven narratives and certain politics and certain things so much in movies that you can't enjoy them so much. But what I did like was the Ballerina movie. I thought that is, aside from Kill Bill, Volume 1 and 2, obviously I like Volume 1. It changed so much in cinema, and especially from having a strong female lead, right, and a strong female character in a movie. They made it work. It's obviously it's not for kids. It's a very, very serious movie, but it's very, very good. Ballerina, even though I really enjoyed it and I had that opinion that it was probably the best female action movie of all time, or at least of recent times, or with that caveat of Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2. Now, are there other strong female characters in other movies? Sure, but most of them are absolutely not, because they're trying to be, Mary Sue's or something that they're not, right? And it becomes very annoying because it takes away from the story. Like when I saw the latest Star Wars films, right? I'm not talking about 1 through 6, obviously 4, 5, 6. I grew up with those, and then I actually think 1, 2, and 3 are not that bad at all. I enjoy them. And they're perfect to watch with people of all ages, for the most part, right? And those are great. A lot of strong female characters in there, a lot of strong male characters. There's the whole thing is diversity and inclusion. It always has, and it always will be. Episodes 1 through 6. Is it perfect? No, but it's not pushing these crazy agendas, right, that take away from the story. Watching the new Superman movie, I'm so happy and full of joy and hope. It sounds ridiculous, but not just because, oh wow, you brought back like movies that like how they used to be or something. No, yes and no. It's not that. It's about being honest, genuine, and bringing back, like, telling a good story, but also of not trying to destroy something. They say something like evil cannot create anything. It can only basically use what other people have already created and then basically ruin that, which is probably true. And I think that's at the core of the issue of why people really have been frustrated with movies and TV shows and certain political agendas, and being told what to think, being told, what should be good and what is good and what's not good, and what you should fight for and what you should believe. People don't like that, even if they can't articulate it, and even if they can't maybe put it into words so much, right? Maybe they're just more in an emotional state and they're just angry, or maybe they will say words and they're not the words that they mean or intend, but that's what it is. People like to be presented with a story. Live action, because obviously we watched a live action here. The Superman movie was a live action, but the it was originally in a comic book, right? A long time ago, around in the 1940s and 30s, right? So it's a very, very, very old story that I really truly believe should not be, desecrated, right? The spirit of it, anyways. And they kind of proved that someone like Mr. Terrific, and it was just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. It was super helpful, super intelligent, super strong, um, just a dynamic character. Uh, Kind of gave me back vibes like when I watched Blade back in the day, and when I saw that for the first time, I just loved it. No one cared about the representation. They just cared, is that person human or not, and is that person real or not, and what is that person's intentions, and what do their actions tell you about them, right? So, for instance, even though Guy Gardner was not horrible or anything like that, I didn't dislike the character. It was really interesting that he didn't want to help in a certain situation, but Mr. Terrific did. And when he decided to help a certain individual, we won't say who I liked a lot, he went all in. And it didn't really matter so much about the reason. The reason he gave was very funny. The reason why he gave, I will say, is because he said that he wanted to upset or piss off Guy Gardner, right? The Green Lantern. And I thought that was interesting. Because did he really? Like, it was funny when he said it, but my personal opinion is that there's a lot more behind that. I don't believe, that's kind of what makes him terrific, right? Is when he spoke with confidence. When he spoke with intention. He didn't overspeak. He didn't blab on and on and on. And he was really good at achieving goals. And his breakout scene was just phenomenal in terms of the fighting that he was doing on the beach. Wow, that was phenomenal. He showed that, a lot of qualities of what a hero would show, where, he's not just there for himself, but he's achieving his goal while constantly making sure that his primary objective, which is to make sure that the innocent people shouldn't be hurt, right? While still achieving his goal. It was really quite phenomenal. There's so much there in terms of these robots that are, in the Fortress of Solitude, how they're just robots and AI, right? But then they even, one of them even tries to name themselves, and then, Superman, he's all about free choice, and there's so much humanity in him. It's just wonderful. And I think a lot of people gave Crypto, the Superdog, a bad rap. Of course, he's got a bad attitude, and he doesn't look exactly how he looks in the comics. But I think something that people are missing is that I believe that Crypto's also on a learning journey. It's just very, I don't know how to explain it, overt. Like, the things that Crypto does and the actions that he takes are so outrageous and far-fetched that people don't even really see the growth that he has in the film a lot of the time. They're just annoyed by him. But I think it's not so much a bad thing about Crypto as it is to show how tolerant Superman is, right? That he understands that this is just a dog, right? It's a kind of like dealing with like a 4 or 5-year-old child. The Lex Luthor was interesting. It's so interesting. I right away thought, oh wow, this guy is, he's greedy, he's envious, but there was a word. He's conceited. He's conceited and full of hubris. That was the first thing I thought, and then I thought of envy. It's very interesting because in the movie later on, they specifically brought up the word envy, but I was getting those other vibes too, right? Hubris, full of himself. There was a couple others, And it's interesting they actually pulled on that and made it a large plot point. But I think there was more to it than that. And I think that if they let the movie bake a little bit longer in the oven, it would have been even better. Um, yeah, I definitely would see it again. I thought it was an interesting thing coming out of the theater, actually seeing something that had a lot of great elements in it, like a lot of nonstop action, but it didn't overdo it to the point where, it's like a Michael Bay movie or something. It definitely had a lot more story than a Michael Bay movie. But surprisingly, Optimus Prime and this version of Superman have a large parallels with each other in terms of always doing the right thing or almost always doing the right thing. I know there's some Transformer movies where Optimus maybe gives up or gets upset or starts blaming humans, because I mean, after 7 or so Michael Bay movies, it would be tough to just keep doing the same thing. But this Superman really just, no matter what, like, they threw so many things at him. They hurt him in so many different ways. You could have spread that out with 3 movies in itself. But they put it all into one movie and they did a pretty good job. Yeah, Mr. Terrific was good. Like, I love this Lois Lane. I watched quite a bit of the latest TV series of Superman, and I really, even though I think she's probably a good person, and she's not a horrible actress or anything, I really didn't like the Lois Lane in the latest TV series. Like, first of all, physically, she doesn't fit in my mind what the Lois Lane would be. It's just nice to get that marriage of all the character, like, this Lois Lane in this movie was just not, I don't want to say perfect because nothing's perfect, but she's as close to perfect as you can get. Like, I couldn't believe, like, having, all the intelligence, all the wit, all the humor, all the femininity, and all the strength of what a modern woman should be, like being strong without having any kind of superpowers, but then also having the look and marrying all that together of being, a great reporter and a great girlfriend and a great human being and being intelligent, funny, smart, all that. Wow, good for her. Like, what a fantastic actress. And I'm not simping for her or anything. It's just I didn't like the, I don't know if it's a juxtaposition or, the Superman actor that I liked a lot in the latest TV show. I forget. The one with the great Bizarro episodes. He did a great Bizarro. My goodness. He made me really like Bizarro, and the music that accompanied with that was fantastic. Like, that show was pretty good, but the kid actors are not bad either, but sometimes they're whiny, and it's the same thing. It's the whininess. Like, that whininess echoes in so many, movies and TV shows. It's like The Flash, right, with Barry Allen on, I guess it's CW or Netflix or whatever. It's like the first 3 or 4 seasons are fantastic, and Professor Zoom is just, that actor is just unbelievable, unbelievable. They got him to play so many different roles, and he's just got such a great range. But as Professor Zoom, he was so good, right? So good. But then also that Flash was really good, and it would have been cool to see him in there even for just a bit. Maybe that would have been overdoing it too much, but he's pretty great. That actor that plays the Flash. And, that's a good example where they're pushing too much agenda-based stuff. It got to the point where they just completely wanted to see how much they could ruin that show. I don't know if it was season 5 or 6, And it's so interesting. Someone like Killer Frost, Caitlin. I don't know the actress's name, but she's a fantastic actress. And no matter how bad that show got, she was still a great actress, and also soft and feminine, just like this Lois Lane actress was in this latest Superman movie. And even though there was all this stupid, like, girl power stuff where they weren't, I love girl power stuff if it's done right? But if you have girl power stuff and you're forcing it, right, it just looks stupid, and it downgrades and lowers everything, right? But even though they were doing that for a long time, in the second half, I would say, of the Flash show, that Killer Frost and Caitlin remained a constant from the first time you see her in the first season to the end. She just knocks it out of the park. And Mr. Terrific does that. That's why I don't care about the color of his skin or anything like that, or putting in certain races, or taking out certain races if it works, right? And pretty much everything worked. I'm really curious to see though how this Supergirl will work, because I really like Game of Thrones and I like that actress that plays Supergirl in this, but I just hope that they pull it off, the way that they pulled it off with Lois Lane and maybe Killer Frost in the Flash TV show, and Ballerina. Don't get me started in Ballerina. They actually just that was fantastic. It's been a few weeks since I've seen it though, so I don't have fresh examples for you, but they set up realistic expectations. Okay, so what I'll say about Ballerina is, of course, she's beautiful, intelligent, has an opinion of her own, right, and at times soft. Well, in that movie, she's probably not that soft, but that actress in the James Bond movie, she knocked it out of the park for the few minutes she was in there, right? But her actions were realistic in terms of what was possible and how she would actually fight all these trained assassins and killers, right? In Ballerina, the John Wick related movie. And it was nice that John Wick was in there, and it was also nice that just to show how awesome she was, they wouldn't just give her an easy win against John Wick or something like that. It was totally realistic, right? Like, John Wick, man, it even though he was in there just for not as much as I thought he would be, it was so impactful, and it actually gave him so much character development, because he could do certain things and he didn't. And it was actually almost very like a parallel between John Wick in Ballerina and Superman, in terms of their attitude, in terms of how how they're these exceptional individuals that could go about doing things a different way, a more forceful way. Instead, they choose a more humanistic way and find a different way solution to the problem. Really, really phenomenal. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. Yeah, I don't think that you can satisfy everybody, but I think this movie has something in it, a little something in it for everybody, if that makes sense. The countries at war are very interesting. I could actually understand a lot of what was said. I didn't even need the subtitles, so I couldn't believe that they were actually using some of the same languages that I understand. So very, very interesting. The pacing of the movie was pretty darn good too. I hope people enjoy it. I'm not sure. It seems like a lot of people enjoy it, but yeah, it was pretty super and pretty terrific. That's a pretty good summary of it. The dog annoyed me in the trailers that I saw, but when I actually saw the movie, I thought, oh wow, he's got like a character arc, and I felt some sympathy for him too at some points. I don't want to say why, but there's something that happens to him there, and you feel pretty bad for the dog. And the dog's loyalty to Superman increases over the film, and also the dog's humanity also increases. Like, there's certain situations where he could have easily, killed some animals on a certain, farm. He doesn't do that. There's other times where he could have easily killed some primates. And it looks like he just ends up having fun with them. So, yeah, I think that in the next movie, or the movies to come will be pretty phenomenal, right? Like, I'm actually very, very excited for the DC universe to come. I hope that Gunn, I think it's James Gunn, I hope he just makes a ton of DC movies, because I think this is exactly what DC has, needed. Can you criticize this? Of course, you can criticize this movie, but I mean, for a breakout movie, for a director that's done a lot of great movies and good movies, it's good. And there's some humor, and there's a lot of humor, and there's a lot of, especially a lot of hope. And I just didn't feel bad coming out of it. I felt good, and that's something that I think a lot of people have needed, especially since the lockdowns about 5 years ago, right? It's like, will things ever get back to what they were before that? I don't know. Probably not, but they are slowly getting better and things are healing, which is pretty interesting. Thanks for watching.